Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you my solo of Omega Sigmascape's third encounter on the Savage difficulty. I've been waiting for a while to get to this one, and with the latest increase in item level, it seemed like an apt time, and well, I got it done. Now, normally I would do a quick introduction and then just let you guys watch the solo with the music on in the background, but unfortunately, when it comes to some old Final Fantasy music, it very often gets false copyrighted on YouTube. This happened to me with my other Sigmascape solos as well. So instead, I'm going to be providing some commentary and discussing soloing this encounter and just soloing in general in Final Fantasy XIV. I'll also be doing this for the next encounter, which I have soloed as well, 08S against God Kefka, so please look forward to that there also. Alright, so let's jump right into it. So Sigmascape's third encounter is against the Guardian, and on the Savage difficulty, it is a really long encounter. There's actually not a whole lot you need to know to do, but the few things you need to optimize on are just damage, damage, damage. This is a fight that has a very intense AoE DPS requirement. And so trying to optimize around that, making sure to hit Guardian while also hitting the adds, at least on most of them, was one of the more important things. Atomic Ray placement, something you should also keep in mind. You want to be able to place it here, that orb on one side of the boss, and then be able to get to the other, because you just don't want to lose any opportunities to hit the boss if you can manage it. This dot you get from the prey marker also, even now, hits pretty hard. The missile did 52,000 to me, but you're just going to have to heal through that as best as possible. The main mechanic here is actually the monitors to the north of the room. The boss is going to tether to those monitors very frequently. Sometimes he'll skip one and do the one on the right. Sometimes he'll do the big one. But either way, you need to know how all of those operate. The first one I got on this pull, as it's not the same exact order every pull, was Dottaluma. That starts with a knockback, but more importantly, these orbs. These orbs are the single most important thing at the current item level that you want to do correctly. When they explode and nobody's in them, they do a room-wide damage down, and it stacks. So your goal is to take 0 damage from all the explosions. On Warrior, that means carefully timing a buffed Shake It Off with both Vengeance and Thrill of Battle, just to be safe. You don't actually need both. And your shield from Bloodwetting. If you do it right and you don't take any auto attack damage between then you should get 0 damage from all the explosions and get no damage downs. If you screw that up, you might still be able to do it. Once we have more gear especially, you can probably take a couple of damage downs. But for now, that was something that was really important. The Dottaluma ad, you also want to focus down as quickly as possible, even if you have other mobs up at the time, because you got a different order for the panels. You still really need to take him down, because the laser that he does, stacked with the boss's damage that one does, it's all very, very dangerous. So, depending on the timing, you don't really want to hold anything for him, but if you can have some gauge tucked away, maybe an Infuriate on Warrior or something on one of the other jobs, that's really going to help you out with him, and I think it's a very, very important thing to do. But otherwise, it's just a matter of killing him and dodging the laser coming from the boss. What's the most frustrating thing about this fight is the Biblio phase. The Biblio phase, there's no way you can do any of the demon spawns, so you have to actually just kill all of them. And they're just tanky enough to be annoying. They're not really that tanky, but you can see the speed at which I actually kill them here is not, it's not great. And depending on the order of the phase, you sometimes get this mixed in with the Dottaluma, and you sometimes get it mixed in with Air Force, which is what I ended up getting on this one. This is where missiles are going to come in, there's going to be adds, and it's just so much not damage on the boss that just gets annoying. See, here we go. We got these Air Force adds here now. And these you have to single target down. You want to just go across the room, try to avoid the missiles, and focus them down as quickly as possible. If you're lucky, they really only take maybe a GCD and an OGCD, depending on what GCD you're on. But just try to only be hit by one, and it should be fine. Also save all of your gap closers for as soon as you see Air Force, or as soon as you know Air Force is coming. I actually made a mistake in this pull. I didn't even realize it till watching it back. I had kind of already forgotten. There were mines in the middle of the room, and those mines will have 2 different wires that you can cut, either the red one or the blue one. You have to run through the wires in order to cut them, in order to disarm them. And they still do a bunch of damage to the person who does that. But you're supposed to do that, and I didn't. So that's why I got these 2 Vuln stacks. It ended up not really mattering, so you can probably skip them all together and still just finish the fight. It probably would have helped me, because the DPS got really close here at the end, since I was still kind of trying to figure out how I wanted to do this fight. But that's pretty important. But with this, between the Air Force and the Biblio adds, by far the most annoying thing because you just have so many AoE GCDs to do. Ultros, fortunately, is a break. This one right here, this is just, you know, you need to be spread out, but there's only one of you. And then that tentacle is aimed in the direction that the player is facing when they are targeted by the ground AoE. So it's not so bad. Ultros here, I also recommend just staying on Guardian until he disappears. You will need to silence Ultros at some point, but you just, all this downtime with the boss, if you turn and burn Ultros immediately, then you just have all this downtime on the boss and it's not worth it. So staying on the boss until the boss is available, until the boss is unavailable, and then killing Ultros and silencing him is what I would recommend doing. Going back to the Biblio ads too, you really need to make sure that you stack any ads, especially the Biblio ads, on the boss for as much time as possible. With the Air Force mechanic, the boss will do a point blank AoE, so it's tough for, yeah, about 10 seconds. You know, you probably want to take a few steps away just to make sure that you don't get hit by that. But it's important to try to AoE both the boss and the Biblio ads. This was also annoying. So what happens at the very beginning of the virus one, which is basically the midway point of the fight, is you actually get an abandonment debuff. Abandonment will hysteria you if you end up not next to other players or just a little bit too far. And you can't avoid this hysteria. So you don't know what direction you'll run off in. So you just have to go as close to the middle of the room as possible and try to hope that the hysteria doesn't send you into the wall. If you get walled here, it's just a paralysis, which isn't that bad, but it's bad enough. You don't want it. One thing I didn't do in this clear that I would recommend doing is about 3 or 4 seconds into abandonment, jump. And that should delay the amount of time that the hysteria actually has you moving because you're in the air, which is immensely useful to trying to avoid that paralysis. Other than that, the virus itself explodes. You're supposed to pass it in the normal encounter, but here it just explodes and whatever, you just move on. And then you get viral weapon, which is a misdirection mechanic. You just have to make sure you don't get hit by the laser, and then you can just hold the button forward when you get to the second half, which is going to be the boss going untargetable again and doing this mechanic where he looks at wherever you were. So you see he's going to fly away, and then he's going to target where I was just standing. He's going to shoot it, and you just have to not be there. I believe that stuns you. I haven't actually been hit by it in quite some time, but I'm pretty sure that stuns you. And then he does this again. Now, the big thing that gets added in the second half is this radar mechanic. If you're caught moving while the radar mechanic ticks, then it will paralyze you. However, it's only actual movement. You can still keep hitting the boss. So as long as you're in range and you don't use something like Primal Rend, for example, or one of your gap closers, you shouldn't get paralyzed by that even while hitting the boss the entire time. Now, after you've done the first half, the second half is going to repeat that. Whatever the third program he did is going to get pasted and used again first. So in my run, he used Air Force third, so it's going to be the first one he uses here. Also, he has the not movement thing. And this is largely the same as it was before. There's a slight difference in the order of the abilities, as you're going to see here in a second. You're going to see the ads with the Air Force coming out, and then I'm also going to have to do the bombs in the middle of the room, which again, looking back, I probably could have just skipped doing the bombs altogether. So you're going to see here come the ads. And keep in mind, they will auto-attack you, but those lasers that they shoot, they always come out of their left cannon. So they have like a right cannon and a left cannon. They always come out of the left cannon. So you can actually kind of position yourself to not be in as much threat there. I'm sure if you do it in a very particular way, you could probably avoid that. Oh, I didn't even kill him and I had to go back for a ranged attack. That's so sad. But yeah, you got to run around the room and kill all of those. They hit hard enough that you can't ignore them. And if you don't kill them fast enough, they'll actually start auto-attacking you for massive damage, which you really, really don't want on top of the other damage that they deal. But you saw how I disarmed the bombs. I dealt with those. And now is where things get very not fun. This very not fun phase will happen either in the first half or the second half of the fight. I kind of prefer it to happen in the first half because we're back at the 4 Biblio ads. But there's actually going to be a 5th Biblio ad here in the second half, which is going to happen no matter what. But it's the timing, I feel, when I get the Biblio ad here. Actually, is this always the... No, this can be Ultra second, I believe, instead of the Biblio ad. You know what? It's been a while. I don't remember the patterns. It might always be a Biblio ad here. So this might actually be the preferred pattern to get it. So, no, yeah, I think this fight actually overall, getting Dada Luma first and Air Force third with Biblio in between, probably the best pattern, actually. Because Dada Luma requires a single target focus, and you still have Biblio ads up for that. But for this, you really want the boss to be in the northwest corner pretty much the whole phase, specifically because of the Biblio ads here. You want the boss, the Bibliotaph, and all of the Biblio demons to all be stacked so all of your AoE just hits everything. You don't want to waste a single GCD by having the boss on one side of the room, and then you're off AoEing the mobs on the other. It's so much lost potency on the boss itself that I just don't leave this corner unless it's to do a mechanic for some particular reason. I just stay in this corner pretty much the entirety of the second half. We're going to come to Dataluma again, and we are going to have to do those missiles again. The missiles plus the orbs on the ground. However, and that's also a knockback, don't forget, we also have an atomic ray. So you need to place the atomic ray away from the orbs and then get into an orb and make sure we have the shields timed just right. So I think it's about 5 seconds after these missiles come down. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So about 2 seconds after the atomic ray. I actually did it a little early, but with how strong your shield is as a warrior, it's not that bad. In fact, the shield even lasted through the explosion that I accidentally ate right there. And you sometimes dodge autos, which can increase the strength of the shield as well, so you don't actually waste it. So it ended up not being too bad, but it has to be, you want a fully buff shield. And you can't do anything to reduce the damage from the explosions other than, you know, you could rampart. You just can't reprisal, you know, you can and your vengeance is going to be down because you're using it on the shake it off shield. So rampart along that helps reduce the damage from the AoEs, and you'll probably want to do that. But it's very important. There's no Dataluma ad to kill in the second half, just like there's no Biblio ad in the first half, so they kind of trade it off. So making sure you get that shield correct is the single most important thing. So get used to the timing. You saw 5 seconds, and then I went, and I could have actually waited for 6 because the shield would have been a little bit stronger, I think. For Ultros, it's largely the same. The only difference is that there's an atomic ray and these bombs. And honestly, there's almost no damage in this phase. So again, I didn't really need to deal with the bombs. There's not a lot of damage other than Biblio ads. Biblio ads plus Biblio Taft plus the boss is the most threatening part of the fight, and you'll want as much healing and reprisal and any sort of damagement you have there. If you remember it, I don't think I remembered it. I don't think I pressed anything for that. And so, yeah, at this point, it's just a race here at the end. Now, interesting thing about Guardian is it's actually not a race to beat the Enrage. It's a race to not be killed by the Enrage. Guardian, for some reason, his Enrage does 99,999 and then pulses for like 30 to 40,000 damage every second and a half. So what you're supposed to do is just try to save as much healing as possible, any shields you have for that as possible. And you can actually buy a whole lot of time at the end of the fight in order to finish him off. I've actually gotten him from like 14% down to like 6% during that Enrage. So you have like a massive amount of leeway. I already know I've won this fight at this point, especially with how long Extermination Sequence, the Enrage, actually takes the cast. Look at this. Look at how long it takes. It takes forever. So with Guardian, make sure all the ads are stacked up on the boss. Try to tank the boss in the Northwest in the second half. Try to jump for the virus. See, 99,999. And then it's just all healing and damage, 32,579. And that's going to repeat over and over and over again until either the boss or you is dead. I don't actually think the shield is working on that. I think it just does that amount. And it's a weird amount, so I don't really understand it. Yeah, and then it's just a matter of survival and having enough damage. Once we have 630 stuff and 635 weapons, even extra damage downs won't matter, but it'll be even harder to get damage downs because you'll have more gear. So overall, I'm glad this fight wasn't too bad. I managed to get through it reasonably quick once I had the patch 6.2 crafted gear and the new trial weapon. And so you can probably go out there and give it a shot yourself. But that's going to be it for my Guardian solo. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And stay tuned. I'll be doing commentary for the Kefka and God Kefka solo as well. Thank you, YouTube, for having no protection against false. At least if it was Uematsu, I'd get it, right? But it's not. It's like some random Spanish music company that does this with like all the old Final Fantasy musics. I deal with it all the time when I do retro stuff for Final Fantasy. Anyway, thank you again. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care.